your technical knowledge won't matter much. What matters is your understanding about the model. So you take any model, preferably CMAS risk management cycle, but you take any model, then you will see the steps. So as an organization, let's think practically. You need to identify the risks. You need to introduce controls to minimize those risks. What are you going to do? You need to have a separate team. Point number one, you need to have a separate team. I have touched this topic briefly a few minutes ago, where you need to get a separate team, not the CEO, not the head of operation, not the finance director, but a separate team to work with those individuals to identify the risk. Sales director will like to be happy about the new customer. So whenever you go and say, my dear friend, I agree you have a new customer, but don't you think that it's a risk to have this guy because he's new and we are giving him for 14 days credit. Isn't that a risk? So whenever you say that, it's a negative feeling that you are giving. But you need to build a culture where people understand what you're trying to do. Whenever you go and say there can be a fraud in this area, people should not take it negatively. People should think, yes, what I'm trying to say is there is a possibility for a risk. Let's ensure it won't happen in our organization. Let's ensure it won't happen in our country. Right? So the first step, the step number one that we need to follow is set a separate group. Generally, we call this group risk management group. We call this RMG, risk management group. So who should be in the risk management group? You got to have a person who is running the show. We can call him chief risk officer. We can call him any name, but there should be one, and you should get the support of the other people. The second step, the first one is setting up a risk management group. The second one is identification of risk. How can you identify the risk? You need to be extremely careful because only the top management will never be able to identify all the risks. You need to get the lower level staff involved. Look at a stores assistant. He will look at a supplier who is sending the goods and might highlight to the stores manager, well, that particular supplier, he was well organized 3 months ago, not now. Something is going wrong with that particular supplier. Look at that particular finance department of the supplier. Earlier, they were pushing very hard for the bills. Now they are not worried. So that kind of risk can only be identified at the lower level. So to summarize, first step is to set up a risk management group. It's absolutely critical for you to set up a risk management group. The second step is to identify the risk. In identifying the risk, you need to get top management and lower level, both the entire organization involved. Let's have a quick break and we'll be back soon. Third step, we'll start with the third step, which is evaluation of risk. Just to remind you on the first two, which is the setting up the risk management group and the identification, here we go with the evaluation of the risk that you identified. You got to evaluate all the risk that you had identified before. How can you evaluate a risk? The main two criteria that got to be used in evaluating risk analysis is you got to see the impact. What do you mean by impact? If that risk actually happens to me, what is the impact for my organization? Second one, how likely for that risk to materialize? How likely for that risk to happen? Look at one of your major risks, losing one of the customers. Let's say you have an organization where you have only 5 customers, losing one of them. We need to evaluate that. Maybe you have only 5 customers and you have been working with them for last 30 years, you know them very well. But if you try to evaluate, then what you need to do is you need to see the impact. When you see the impact, you will realize you're talking about 20% of your sales, hopefully 20% of your profitability. The impact is very high. However, you might argue likelihood is very less because we have such a good relationship. We have been working with them for so many years, therefore likelihood is less. So you need to do this for all the risks that you have seen. You need to see the impact and likelihood. Let's take a simple example of a risk where the likelihood is very high, the impact is less, petty cash fraud. Any organization will have a petty cash, and the risk of having a fraud in petty cash is likelihood is very high. Well, you can always have a voucher missing, you can always have few thousand rupees going here and there, but the game is impact is less. The game is impact is less. So you need to do this for all the risks that you have identified. Different organizations follow different methods. you can decide the best method for your organization. You need to decide the best method for the organization that you are going to work for on the exam day as well. Some organizations may argue anything that will have an impact of over 10% of my profitability, I will classify as high impact. That's up to them. So you need to decide how we are going to do that. Likelihood, maybe on the exam day, you need to decide how we are going to scale the risk based on the likelihood. You might say the risk that had happened over 5 times in last 3 years, high likelihood. That has never happened in last 2 years, low likelihood. So whatever the basis you agree, you need to ensure you evaluate the risk. Now the third step is evaluating the risk. Next step, most critical, is as an organization you need to decide what are the risks that you are going to accept and what are the risks that you are going to take as okay. What are the risks that you are going to live with? What is the biggest risk faced by an organization? Take any organization, what is the biggest risk faced by them? The biggest risk faced by any organization is not to take a risk. If you are determined, if you are decided not to take a risk, there is no any other risk that is bigger than that will have a negative impact than that. So we got to take risk as an organizations, as individuals, as countries. But you need to decide the level of risk that you are willing to accept as it is. The level of the risk that we are willing to live with. Simple example, giving credit. Giving credit, can we eliminate that risk? I'm sure it will be impossible for you to eliminate that risk in today's business world. All your competition, they are giving credit. How can you go to the market and say, I won't give credit because it's a risky thing? No one will buy from you. So you got to give credit. But the game is, you need to decide what level you are willing to accept the risk in giving credit. You need to decide this particular customer, let's go ahead and give credit because that's the business. But the maximum level of exposure, the maximum level of risk that I'm going to take for this particular customer is $5 million, nothing more, whatever the amount is. So what I'm trying to say is, you need to identify the risk, then you need to evaluate them based on the likelihood and the impact, then you need to decide what are the risks we are going to live with. So if you decide the maximum risk that you are willing to take in giving credit to customers as 5 million, then you need to work very hard to ensure not to have any customers at 5.5, at 6 million. So that's the next step is, which is to decide the level of risk that you are willing to take and bring the risks that are above that level to be within the level that we are willing to live with, within the level that we are willing to take. Now this level, in technical terms, we call it risk appetite level. Now risk appetite level again is a game for the individuals. Risk appetite level is again a game for the organizations. Look at Richard Branson. I'm sure he'll be taking a little bit higher risk than any of the government of the of Asia. Maybe between you all, you will have a person who takes a very high risk and you might have a person who takes a lower risk. You want to do something, you don't want anyone else to notice it. One of the guys will say, let's go ahead and do it. So he's a risk taker. Other guy will say, my God, I don't want to do that. So individuals are different. Therefore, obviously, organizations will have a different level of risk appetite. In other words, different level of risk that they are willing to take. Because organizations is a combination of individuals. So you need to decide the risk appetite level for that particular organization that you are going to work for on the exam day. Then you have the risk that you have identified that you need to work with. They are the risks that are beyond your risk appetite level. You need to work on them. So that is what we call, in technical terms, risk response strategy. Or we call it risk treatment strategy. You are trying to treat the risk. You are trying to treat the risk. So here we go with risk treatment strategy. Here we go with risk response strategy. What am I going to do? In technical terms, there are many different methods of broader classification of risk response, risk treatment, broader classification. Number one is acceptance. What do you mean by that? There is a very high risk and we have decided to just accept as it is. Number two, avoidance. You avoid the risk completely. Number three, maybe you decide to share the risk. Maybe you decide to share the risk. Number 4, you may decide to reduce the risk. So you are willing to accept it, but at a reduced level. Let's take a simple example. Let's say you want to set up a branch in a country where you are never going to. You need to set up a branch in your operation in a country where there are issues. So in such an example, how can we see these theoretical aspects? So now think that you are going to set up a branch in a different country. How can you take an example of avoidance, reduction, sharing, and acceptance? We will discuss it further after a small break.